So you can also access this live stream through YouTube. It's just gonna let me know once we're up, and then that's when I'll start sharing screen, and then we can get started. And in the meantime, until about 8:05, we're just gonna wait for some more participants to join. And also access, sorry, that's my echo. And then we're gonna get started. Okay, so we're streaming now. And if you guys ever, for whatever reason, get kicked out of Zoom, you can always go on our YouTube channel and access the same thing. Yes, the meeting is going to be recorded onto YouTube. So once the meeting is over, you guys can access it on there. Okay, good stuff. If you guys have any questions, just drop them in the chat box and I can answer them.
So let me know when you're ready to go.
Okay. Can we also have the recording for the last webinar? Yeah, so I've been asking Sorma, she's uploading it onto like an unlisted YouTube, and I'm still just waiting for her to send it to me. I haven't like gotten the message from her like with the link to it yet. And then that's when I'm gonna respond to everyone for the how to get into dental school like webinar information, and then you guys can actually access that and access the slides. I hope that answers a couple people's questions that have actually been messaging me. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Do you want me to share my screen, or is it that?
If it's okay, I'll share my screen and then you access remote control, just because I might have to do stuff on Zoom.
Sounds good. And then we have a question session towards the end, so you guys could ask all your questions.
Yeah, so I would recommend you guys drop your questions in the chat box. And then if there's something that I can answer myself, I'll answer it while the webinar is going. If I see that it's something that honestly Arshia should talk to you about in more detail, then I'm going to just respond back and say that. And then at the end of the webinar, when Q&A happens, that's when we'll go over all of the questions. And to let you guys know, this webinar is just going to end at 9 p.m. So at approximately 8:30 or so, we'll start Q&A. If you have any more questions, let me know. Okay, perfect. So I think we're ready to get going. Okay, yeah. So hello, everyone. My name is Shamim, and I'm the president of Bright Future Dentist this year. And I want to thank you all for joining our How I Scored 100 Percentile on the DAT webinar. This is to be an informative webinar regarding the Canadian, the American Dental Admissions Test for you. And you're going to learn all about what's on the DAT, how to ace each section, hear from 100 Percentile tutors, and exclusive deals from DAT Tutor. I want to say thank you so much to DAT Tutor for... Sorry, Ashia, I don't know if it's gonna let me. Give me a second. I'm so sorry about these technical difficulties. My computer just like blocked your accessibility. Actually, just use share screen.
Okay. Yeah, we apologize for these technical difficulties.
I'm so sorry, guys. I never run webinars with this many issues, so it's honestly all good. It's just about me and Arshia being able to control each other's screens. Wait, it says you can control my screen now. Is it working? Are you able to see it? No. Okay, that's fine. I'll just have Arshia share it then.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, guys, as I was saying though, really quickly, I want to thank DAT Tutor and the founder of DAT Tutor, Arshia, so much for joining us today for this webinar. These are really just amazing pieces of advice that you get to hear from him. He took his DAT and he's going to share all about how he did amazing on his DAT and how him and a lot of the other students that he's tutored can also continue with all the study strategies that he has. So like I said, you guys can also view this later. We're really super excited to have a giveaway for you guys, where 5 students will receive free personalized DAT planning, 1 hour of free tutoring, and free personal statement review, as well as discounts on tutoring for all participants. So all these details will be shared at the end of the giveaway, at the end of the webinar for you guys on how you can enter this giveaway. So it's exclusive to this webinar. And by you joining this, you will be one of the 5 students, hopefully, if you're lucky to just earn these prizes. And I really recommend you guys check out DAT Tutor just on your own time. They have a lot of great resources and a really great offer for students to be able to get DAT tutoring, but on a way that's flexible for you. Just to share a little bit about Bright Future Dentists, in case you guys didn't already know who we are, Bright Future Dentists is a student-run predental organization, and we are dedicated to helping all students on their pathways to dentistry through having guest speakers, workshops, community service, field trips, and also webinars like today's. We aim to equip students with knowledge and insight into the field of dentistry, where we want to create that space for you all to form your friendships and network with one another. Truly, we just want to help you on your journey to success in dental school and hopefully for everybody to get accepted to dental school. I just wanted to quickly plug our WhatsApp group chat with you as well. It's a really great space for you to ask predental related questions because there's tons of people in that group chat that are many of them different year levels of being a predental student, and as well a lot of our alumni who are in dental school right now are still in that WhatsApp group chat that actually often answer questions that you may have. So you can scan this QR code here or put in the bit.ly link. I recommend just take a picture of this super quickly before I go on to the next slide for your reference. And yeah, I always post event reminders on there because I know sometimes students, either they're not checking Instagram often or things just get missed on Instagram. So it's a great way for you to just hear on hand, when our events are happening, just get reminders for them because I know everybody has busy schedules. But yeah. So I'm going to pass the stage over to Arshia. So he's going to share more all about the DAT tutor, and everything that you guys need to know about your journey to success in dental school. And once again, I'm super appreciative that you've joined us. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arshia, and this is a picture of me before I aged in dental school. This was when I was younger. I studied psychology and neuroscience and behavior in McMaster. I graduated 2022. And then this year, so 2023, I'm starting my first year in dentistry at U of D. And last summer, so actually 2 summers ago, when I took the DAT, I got 27 academic average, which was 100th percentile at the time. And I thought to myself, I should probably help other people do just as well in their DAT. So I found a DAT tutor. Okay, so let's first get an overall understanding of what is on the DAT. And so for the Canadian DAT, you have 3 sections where the science section has 2 of its own subsections. So for science, you have biology and general chemistry. So it's an hour long and it's made out of 70 questions. And then you have a 15-minute break and you have another hour of perceptual ability. And these are questions that test your visual spatial intelligence, let's say. And there are 90 questions and you only have 60 minutes for them. You have another break, and then you have reading comprehension, which is you have to read over passages. And in these passages, there's questions that come from these passages, and you have 3 passages, 50 questions in total. So roughly you're looking at 17 or 16 questions per each passage. And each section is scored from 1 to 30, 30 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. And the American DAT is the exact same thing, except that you have organic chemistry and you have quantitative reasoning. So it's just added to it. The reading comprehension and perceptual ability is the same. It is a 5-hour exam as opposed to the Canadian DAT, which is only 3 hours long. Okay, so why is DAT important? There's two main reasons. One is it's getting more important because of GPA inflation. So during COVID, you had this rapid rise in people getting higher GPAs. And to be honest, a lot of admissions in dental schools, they have a hard time not picking someone who has a 3.85 over someone who has a 3.89 over like a 3.4 average difference. And for them, it doesn't seem much. So they want to look at other metrics to pick the right applicants. So with GPA inflation, and also that has led to a rise in DAT scores. So the year before I took my DAT, the highest academic average was a 26, and my year was a 27, and this year I think was a 29. So people overall are doing better on the DAT, and as part of it is because multiple attempts are allowed, and that's a good thing in my opinion. I think for a Canadian DAT, you could take it unlimited number of times. So you don't have to get stressed about not doing well in your first try. Generally speaking, you want to aim for a 22 above in all your sections. And one thing I want to mention, which is it's better to do well in all sections than to do excellent in one section and then to do average in the other section, right? So imagine that, especially for example, Western Dental School cares a lot about their reading comprehension. I think they want it above 21. And it's better to get everything 22 than to get, let's say, 29 on your biology and then 17 on your reading comprehension. So I want to stress that. Okay, so how do you prepare for it? And this is how I prepared for it. There's some questions you have to ask yourself. One is, when should I take my DAT? So people take it during the summers, during the holidays, and gap year. I suggest taking it during the summer if you can. You don't have school, you don't have to sacrifice your GPA and your academics for your DAT. And it's usually the best time if you could do it. If not, holidays are great. So Christmas is coming up. If you want to ruin your holidays, by all means, study for DAT. And then you also, some people take it during their gap year. Also, some people take it during the year. So if you think of yourself that you can capable of that, by all means. How long to study for it depends on how intense you want to study. So typically, I would say you want to study between 3 to 6 hours a day. I know of some people who studied 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. I know some people who study 2 hours a day. I personally can't do more than 4, and then I start losing brain cells. So 3 to 6 hours a day, and then roughly 2 to 4 months. Now, again, one of my students I was talking to, they studied for 2 weeks and they got into dental school, and some people had to study for 8 months. So it depends on also how prepared you are with your previous academics. So if you've already taken chemistry, if you've already taken bio, then you should be pretty good on them. But PAT is something, for example, they need to work on much more. And what to study? Most people take bootcamp or crusher as their main material. Bootcamp as well, especially if you want to do American DAT or if you want to focus on your reading comprehension. I think the reading comprehension is great. DAT crusher has amazing PAT videos, and they have great bio section. Also, crusher is cheaper, but again, they're both great. Depends on your budget. Some people even do both. And then you can also do a shameless plug, and you could also use DAT tutor as a complement to your main study resources. Okay, timeline. So this is how I structure how you would study for DAT. So the first couple of weeks is more like a warm-up. So it takes some time for you to get into a routine of studying, and for you to get into a routine, to get used to the material. You're not going to be able to do 3 to 6 hours of studying every day unless you're already used to it. So if 1 or 2 weeks of you just warming up to studying, and then the first section of your studying should be just getting to know the content. So if you look at something like bio, you can go over the bio videos that are provided in Crusher or Bootcamp. There's also notes they have. So there's Spralis notes on Crusher. Bootcamp has also great notes. And you can just go over those notes. You can watch the chemistry videos on Crusher or Bootcamp again. And the point of content section of DAT is you still want to do some practice, but you want to first go through everything as fast as possible. And also during this content, you want to learn the strategies of reading comprehension and perceptual ability. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to go and start practicing these right away. You want to first learn to do it the right way, and then start practicing it and sort of honing your skills when it comes to that. And then you have a practice session. And I think this is one of the most important areas of studying for any standardized test. You want to do as much as practice as possible. So you can look at full test of questions every day. So that shouldn't take more than 3 hours long if you want to go really intense. And just practice as much as you can. One tip I have to say, and this is a mistake that a lot of students do, which is that you don't want to prioritize content over practice. When you start the bio section, for example, Fralis notes are hundreds of pages of bio. And by the time you get to the end, you've forgotten anything that was in the beginning. So you're not going to be able to learn everything, and that's okay. You learn from trial and error. You learn from the mistakes you make during the practice session. Also, another thing I want to say is you don't want to divide your areas equally. So I've always been good at chem. I think I studied 1 or 2 hours a week for chem. And then for PAT, that was an area that I wasn't good at. So I think I spent more than half my time on PAT. And I ended up getting a 30 on chem, which was the highest score possible. And then a 22 on PAT, which is 90th percentile, which is not bad. But compared to chem, you would imagine if I had divided everything equally, I still would have gotten the good score on chem, but my PAT would have been much lower. So you want to focus on the areas you're weak. And then there's the last few weeks before your test, which I call a period of existential anxiety. This is the area where you're gonna lose your marbles. It's very stressful for most people, especially the days coming up to the DAT. You're gonna lose confidence. You're gonna think that you can't do a lot of the stuff that you were already good at. And it's very hard, but it's something that everyone goes through. And then you have freedom, or next semester. Okay, so some helpful tips I could give you for chemistry. One tip I want to give you, which is that you want to work on your mental math. There is some math involved in chem. It's not that hard, but you are not allowed a calculator on the test. And the math you have should be able to, you should be able to do it in your head. And it really helps if you learn how to estimate numbers in your head, because the numbers they want on the answers are whole numbers. And you don't expect you to do decimals or any sort of algebra, difficult algebra. So again, learn how to do your mental math. And then the next thing you want to do, which is you want to learn the steps for a question and then learn not to do those steps. For example, for a lot of acid questions, there's many steps you can do to find out, for example, the Ka or the acid constant of a certain question. And the truth is that you're writing down all those steps is going to take so much time from the time that you can allocate to other areas. And it's not efficient. So you should learn how to do them, but also learn that there's quicker and efficient ways to answering these questions. Some questions that it takes the average person 2 minutes to do, you could do in 20 seconds. And some difficult areas in chem are drawing and understanding Lewis diagrams. I don't think I still understand it to this day. I'm joking. And then there's also balancing redox reactions, which is another area that is difficult. Okay, so for bio, don't just read your notes, do practice. There is so much notes, so many pages of data and info that you don't really need because you want to prioritize high yield areas of your DAT, which brings to my second point, which is that cheat sheets are your friend. You can make your own cheat sheets. There's also cheat sheets available online, I think for free too, DAT Crusher. You can use DAT Crushers. Not sure if theirs is free, but again, they're very helpful for understanding the general idea of a section. And some difficult areas for bio will be taxonomy and plants, because these are areas that we don't normally take as pre-dental students in our courses. And I would say for something like taxonomy, what I did that I really liked was, because it was so difficult to memorize, I actually led it towards the end to memorize it, because you're more likely to retain and remember what you learned if it's like a week before rather than 3 months before. So I didn't worry about it. I just focused on it towards the end. And then there's also plans. Okay, now PAT, which arguably is the hardest section of the AT. And the number one tip I have to say is you want to learn the strategies first. The hardest thing would be to learn the wrong way to do the questions, for that to become a habit, and then later on to change those habits when there's a new strategy. So you want to first focus on learning the basics. And then you want to focus on mastering your timing. Time is your worst enemy for DAT. So again, you have 90 questions for 60 minutes. And so that's 45 seconds for each question. That's not a lot. And you're not going to have extra time. Most people won't have extra time towards the end. So you want to get really good at that. Some difficult areas will be keyholes, top, front end, and pattern folding. Okay, so reading comprehension. Some tips I have. So again, for reading comprehension, you have passages. You have passages roughly 10 to 15 paragraphs. So now there are short paragraphs for each passage. You have 3 passages in total, and each passage has 16 to 17 questions. And the thing is that when you have like 11 paragraphs, the last thing you want to do is just simply read over the words. You actually want to understand it. You want to read actively. Then the name is in the sort of the solution is in the name, right? So you want to actually comprehend what they're telling you. And for the love of God, don't highlight too much. Don't make your whole page yellow. Highlighting is a great tool, but you don't want to abuse it, because you're going to think about highlighting rather than the content you're actually reading. And the most important thing is comprehending it. No one cares how you highlight it. And the difficult areas, I would say, is just managing the overwhelming amount of information you get. The passages are not hard. They're science related. So again, that's a difficult area, but you should be fine. Okay, some overall test tips is you want to visit the test center the day before. So they're done at Prometric centers. It's very standardized. They check you. They check if you're not carrying any stuff for cheating. You can take food and drinks with you. And you want to check the center before, because, for example, you want to figure out how's the commute to the center. And you want to check the center at the time of your exam. So if your exam is at 9 a.m., you want to try to see how long it takes you to get to your exam, like at 8:30 or 8:20. And you want to see how the commute is that day. You don't want to have any sort of surprises, for sure. And you want to find out where the washroom is, for example. Why not? You don't want to have any surprises on the day of your test. Another thing you want to do is you want to fix your sleep schedule a month before. So if you're prone to sleeping very late and waking up late, which happens in the summer, you don't want to do that. It takes some time for your circadian rhythm to stabilize. And having a sleep schedule that is not in tune with your test is not going to serve you well. You're going to feel very sleepy on the test. And also, don't eat too much. Now, eating is great. Eating lowers stress. You can definitely eat before your test, like some bread and cheese, or during your break, some protein bar you want to have. But I had a friend who had rice and beans before his MCAT, and he threw it up during his break because of all this stress. So don't eat too much. Please don't do that. Okay. Now, some shameless plug for DAT Tutor. I'm going to talk about overall on what our company is and what we do. So we're the first tutoring company exclusively for DAT. So we just specialize in DAT, and that's that. And the services we have, so how it works is initially we have an assessment and a planning stage. So you come to us and you have a meeting with me. I assess your strengths and weaknesses. I see, for example, if you're really good at PAT or if you're really good at top front end, so we don't have to worry about top front end. And then we can focus on anger ranking, or how are you with bio and chem? Now, if you have no experience, then we just create a equal plan for you. And then overall, we change that plan. So we assess your strengths and then we create a plan for you. So for this plan, again, it's based on your strengths and weaknesses. And it's based on if you have any other commitments, we have that. If you want to take a certain day off, we take that day off on your plan. And overall, it's a plan just made for you. And then there's tutoring. So the tutoring is done by top scorers in DAT. And during this tutoring, what we want to focus on is you really learning the strategies that I was talking about. So reading comprehension and PAT, it's not really much memorization. It's just learning how to do it right. And a lot of students need someone to teach them in person, or more like a personalized way, let's say, or tailored way to them, to find out what the best strategy that works for them is. We also tell you what are some high yield science tips are. So for bio, or especially for chem, there's some hard areas that we can work on specifically. And how the tutoring works is we either make lesson plans for you. Some people share their accounts with us, and we can see what areas they're doing bad, what areas they're doing good. And based on that, we make a lesson plan. Or it could be something like you message one of our tutors. You're like, hey, I want to focus on reading comprehension today. So you have a whole session just on reading comprehension. And then there's also a mentorship access aspect of it. So you have access to dental students. And you could use these mentors later on once you get into dental school, or if you have any other questions regarding DAT outside of the normal tutoring hours. And then now we have a testimonial. So I'm not sure if Aryo is here to talk about his experiences for DAT. Let's see if Aryo is here.
I don't see him in the participants.
You don't see him. That's okay. So
you could text him and then he can show up in Q&A if he's able to.
Yes, for sure. So for Aryo is one of our students. He got a 19 in his first try in bio, a 20 in chemistry, and a 20 in reading comprehension, and an 18 in PAT. And you can see how his grades improved by having DAT tutor. So one thing I want you guys to pay attention to in his grades, which is that every grade improved on average. So we didn't have a spike in his grades. It wasn't like he did amazing in chem and then did very bad in PAT. It was just that everything improved together. And especially his PAT, I think he struggled a lot when it came to top front end. And that actually ended up becoming his strongest section. Okay, now we're ready for any questions you guys have. So I'm going to go over the questions here, see what people ask. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
You just private message me. What did you do to study for your reading comprehension? And also, what did you do to study for the bio section?
Okay, so for reading comprehension, I took the MCAT before, and I would say that I didn't do every other area was good, but the CARS was the area that I struggled with the most. And what I tried to do for my own DAT was I used both Crusher and Bootcamp, but what I really focused on was as you're reading the paragraphs, you want to get good at summarizing the main point of every paragraph in your head. So, and that's actually the way you can induce active recall for yourself. So you can also do this for, there's scientific articles. I think there's Scientific American you can use. There's those articles. And as you're reading them and as you're practicing them, just try to first write down the main point of the paragraph in a sentence. And then once you finish the whole section, you write down the main point of the entire passage. And I think that was a skill I learned from CARS that helped me a lot for reading comprehension. Because as I was reading you have to understand when they're writing these paragraphs, each paragraph has a main point. So I really try to focus on that. For bio, what I focused on was I try to go over the material as fast as possible. So my content section, I think I went over everything in like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I studied the content. I didn't learn everything. And then I just did a lot of practice. So that was it for bio. Okay, so if anyone has any questions. So Lath, if I'm pronouncing it right, is asking for Canadian, no organic chemistry, only general chemistry. The answer is yes.
Wait, so I answered a bunch of them.
Oh,
so,
yeah, you did.
Hey, Arshia, actually, I'll go through them. But I just wanted to preface something because this part wasn't covered. Like, if you are going to be studying for the American DAT, of course, there's a math component and an organic chemistry component. And my best methods, like to kind of advise you to study for those sections, is if you take organic chemistry like prior to you doing your DAT, because that will cover a lot of foundational things that you need to understand for the exam. And then once you reach like boot camp and you're studying using boot camp, then a lot of the things are going to be a lot more straightforward. And there's a lot of educational videos for it as well. So my like biggest tip is for you to either go through the videos with like the handout that they give you on boot camp, which is kind of like the slides, but it's like in a question paper format so that you can write on it. Or if you don't want to watch through the videos, at least just fully go through the handout and answer the questions on your own, and then do all of the practice tests. One thing that like I think Aisha is also recommending, if alongside of you having a tutor, is of course just always doing the practice test. So whether you have Crusher for the Canadian or if you have boot camp for the American, just go through as many practice tests and then almost like close to the end of your studying as many full-length tests as possible. People are asking Ashia when they should take the DAT. So if you can kind of like answer that as well, please.
Sure. So I took mine in the summer. I think taking your DAT in the summer is a good idea, especially if it's your first time. It's the safe bet, right? Now, specifically when in the summer? Usually when your semester ends. When does your guys' semester end? So ends April, right? So you want to take a week or two off, and then May, June, and then you either want to do it end of July. And then some people, this is also another tip, some people realize they're not ready to take their test. So there's always the option to postpone your test. Now, I think there's a charge, but I think for me, I think I did that. And I think the charge was only like $40. Obviously, the closer you get to your date, the more expensive it becomes. So some people take it all the way down to September, right? The latest date you could do, I think it's October. Okay.
If you're applying for Canadian, don't do it later than very early in October because your score has to get sent to dental schools. And then actually, if I'm not wrong, for Canadian, you can start taking it once you finish your second year, right?
Yeah, so you can technically take it anytime you want. The only thing is your score expires in 2 years. So a lot of people take it most people I know take it the summer between third and fourth year. I think it's a great time to take your test. I personally took mine actually the summer after fourth year. So there's no really a time. Any time that works for you will be fine.
Yeah, so Lath is asking after fourth. So you can take it. I know a lot of people that take it in their third year. So once they finish their third year, during that summer, they take their DAT, and then that way, they're going into their fourth year. So during the fall, they're already applying for Canadian dental schools. So they would kind of have like an answer of if they got into dental school or not by closer to the end of their fourth year. A lot of people just want to get fourth year and have their bachelor's just completely over with, and then they want to start studying for the DAT and then apply to dental school. And I think that's what Aisha did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So does that answer people's questions? There is a time where it says like when you're eligible for taking the DAT, and that's what I was saying before, where I think you have to finish your second year in order to be eligible. And realistically, think about it, like it would be better if you had already finished taking your bios and your chems. So you have that like science knowledge like a lot more fresh than just having like taken it in high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it works. There's this student in my class, and this lady is 35 years old, and she had her undergrad 15 years ago, something like that. And she had to reteach herself everything. And so it just goes to show you, even if you're not from a science background, you can still do fine. I think one of the top people in my class, he took math in his undergrad. So the chem and the bio stuff, especially the chem, most people find it easier. The bio is a little bit difficult, but it's just memorization.
Yeah. Somebody is asking approximately what your GPA was to get into U of T, and if you got into other dental schools, or what you kind of think. I think is also a question to answer after that is like, how much does a good GPA supplement like a DAT score? Like if your DAT score is like lower or higher or so.
Yeah, so that depends on the school. So some schools really sort of are heavily towards GPA, and some schools care a lot about DAT. So Western, for example, cares a lot about reading comprehension. U of T is kind of more like they just want a normal score, normal average score. So my GPA was 3.99. U of T, I think the average GPA they wanted was 3.94, I think, last year. But I think a lot of it was during COVID, so it's going to come down. They're also not taking the worst year off anymore. So,
so Lath is still asking that he's considering taking it in his third year in the summer, because they're planning to do research in the summer after second year. Would that be too late to take the DAT in third year summer, or would it be bad because like he may forget stuff? I think you kind of
no,
already.
you're fine. You're fine. Yeah.
To kind of like let everybody know, whether you purchase Bootcamp or Crusher, they have a ton of notes and videos and just like instructional information for you to really like get down those concepts in case you forgot. And there's always free external sources too, such as Khan Academy and just YouTube. So there's so much for you to be able to refresh your mind. So it says the CDAT only allows us to pick 5 schools to send our DAT scores to. If we want to send our schools to more, can we still do that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to pay extra for that, but you're definitely allowed to do that.
Yeah, so depending on if you're applying to Canadian or not, you will have to pay that application fee to every school that you're applying to. So the Canadian like CDA, Canadian Dental like Admissions Board in general, they give you 5 free ones, but there's more than 5 dental schools in Canada. So it really depends. I know a lot of people that are applying to Canadian schools only, they apply to approximately 3 schools. They don't apply to more than that. So this isn't an issue for them. But like, for example, myself, if I'm going to be applying broadly to schools across Canada and America, that may be an issue for me, and I'll have to pay for that score to be shared. The next question is, sorry, did you say something?
No, I was going to read the question. You can read the question.
Yeah. The next question, somebody direct messaged me. How would you complete the prerequisites if you're not a science major? And I think this is referring to prerequisites for dentistry.
Yeah, so for prereqs, you have electives, right? And during your electives, if someone is not a science major, they would take their prereqs. Their prereqs are not, for example, for U of D, they do want a full year of anatomy, and then they want general life science courses, and I think one biochemistry, one or two biochemistry, or I think two is biochemistry. I can check again. I can put the website actually in the link. I can stop sharing, or hold on. I'm gonna put the prereqs on the link on the chat after all. So yeah, they usually take it in their electives, or they can take it in the summer. That's how they do it. And someone said, did you guys use your Canadian DAT to apply to states? Some schools accept Canadian DAT. I think some don't, but Canadian friendly ones should do. I think Australian schools also probably accept it.
Yeah, so there are a couple Canadian friendly schools where they will accept the Canadian DAT, and they're more likely to be lenient towards international applicants as well. And a couple of them actually don't charge international fees for Canadian students. They actually charge out-of-state fees for them for their tuition. So those are all things to keep in mind. If you did want to apply more broadly, I would say taking the American DAT is more beneficial for you. If you have a strong organic chem background, you have like a whole other section of chemistry to excel in. So consider that if that's something that you're really great at. I know somebody that told me that they're an organic chem tutor, so they were more inclined to take the American DAT because they had that advantage. But yeah, and then the next question is, would you say that the Canadian one is easier than the American one? Actually, you haven't taken the American one,
but I would say yes, because it's the exact same thing, except that you have two extra sections. So if you're thinking of, well, you want to study more, well, obviously studying more would be considered more difficult. But in terms of, let's say you ask for bio and chem, again, bio and chem, so the biology of Canadian DAT and the general chemistry, same level of difficulty. It's just added two more sections.
Mm-hmm. If anybody is wondering about like if Crusher or boot camp is worth it, my personal experience with boot camp is yes. Ashia, do you have any like remarks about like Crusher or other resources?
Yeah, I took both, so I could say that they're both great. In some areas, boot camp is stronger than Crusher. In some areas, Crusher is stronger than boot camp. You shouldn't get analysis paralysis and thinking, oh my goodness, like I've seen people do just as well using both resources. Bootcamp is more expensive, but they also have more things to offer. So they have a strong application. So they have a phone app that they can use. Their videos are more comprehensive. Their bio videos are much more comprehensive. But then the chem videos of Crusher are much more efficient. So they're not long. So there's 2-3 minutes, you learn the concept. Someone asked, what does the minimum academic average mean? So that's a very good question. So academic average is everything except the PAT, right? So there's different sections, everything. So the science and reading comprehension will be considered your academic average. When someone says, what is the minimum academic average? They say that the minimum grade they're looking at in those, when you average out your reading comprehension and science, and the minimum academic average is roughly what I'm not sure about the minimum, but the average is what you want to aim is 22 above. So
minimum AA requirements, though, I think, did you mention like the Western cutoff, for example?
Yeah, so yeah, for Western has cutoffs for reading comprehension, especially, but I can bring the averages for you.
Somebody is asking, are the general chemistry videos on bootcamp representative of Canadian DAT?
Yeah, the general chem is the same.
All right, and then I'm not sure if you know this answer, Ashia, but if you're doing the Canadian DAT in your second year and select the schools you want your score to be sent to, is it going to stay on their system until fourth year when you apply?
So this is a Okay, so it expires in 2 years, and the expiry is till the application date. So if you take it in the summer of second year and you're applying in the fall of your fourth year, so the summer of second year will be the summer after your second year. So
Yeah.
it still would work. It still would work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your DAT score is good for 2 cycles.
Yeah.
So you can consider it like that. I think American is a little different because usually they're so like picky about things, but I can always like answer somebody's question if they have that through DM, and I can send like an email and ask people. Regarding GPA, what did you guys do to help boost your GPA? For example, did you take courses outside of your degree just for a higher GPA? I have tips. Do you have any tips, Arshia?
I can give some tips. So for my GPA, actually, I was initially in a life science degree, which is actually easier to get a higher GPA. But then I specialized in psychology and neuroscience. I would say that if you're asking, should I take bird courses, I would say so the courses you take in undergrad come down to 3 types of courses. One is courses you have to take for your degree. 2 is the courses you like to take, so the courses that you just find it fascinating. And 3 are bird courses and easy courses. Let's put aside the courses you have to take. I say I'm actually a big fan of taking both courses that you enjoy and also courses that are easy. I think you want to pick the path of least resistance when it comes to your GPA. Now, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, so myself, especially, this happened in my first year. So in high school, I used to have a tutor for math specifically. I was pretty weak in math, but now math is one of my strongest subjects. So when I was going into university, my tutor recommended that I take like easier math courses that were already on topics that I understood and covered in high school before I took my official calculus course that was required for my degree. So this helped me have more of a refresher, and I was constantly strengthening my math skills before I reached calculus, because I knew that I could probably do really well in the calculus section, maybe just on my own, but I knew probability was going to get harder. So I technically took 1 6 credit, which is a full year math course on just fundamentals of math. And it's catered for students who actually didn't take math in high school, but want to take math courses in university. And then I took another 3 credits of just straight calculus. And in both of those courses, I got an A+. So that was a really great way for me to have more A+ on my transcript. Whereas I only needed 1 math for my degree. I'm ultimately graduating with more credits than I need to. And I would say if you can afford the tuition, or if you're getting OSAP support and it can kind of cover for that, I would say take courses that you're strong in and take more of them if you can fit that in your degree plan. It's also very important for you to kind of like think about when you want to take your courses and not piling hard courses together. I went to academic advising a lot, and I really tried to talk to students that had taken my program before, especially upper years. My major kind of had like a peer tutoring type of support thing. And I got lucky enough where my peer tutor, she was interested in going into dentistry. So she told me, she's like, if you want to like go to US, start thinking about the fact that you're going to have to take a lot of extra courses. So then that's when I went home, and for every single year of my degree, I started writing out and thinking about when I'm going to be taking these courses so that I'm not overwhelmed. I was kind of prepared, and I knew what I was leading up to with each semester that's going to come. And I wasn't putting organic chem with anatomy and physiology and biochemistry all together, just because you have to think about courses that are content heavy, but then you also have to think about courses that are practice heavy, and some courses are both. So I would say like understand where you have weaknesses, and if you can afford tutoring, get tutoring. If you feel like you can really strengthen your knowledge with YouTube and Khan Academy and spend the time on that, do it. Just take whatever measures you need that you feel are suitable for you. You know what I mean? Do you have anything else, Ashia?
No, I would say exactly. Pick the you're gonna soon realize what areas you're good at. So I was good at psychology stuff. The stuff keeps repeating. And I would say that taking those psychology courses over and over again just helped me get a better GPA. Someone asked what was the hardest course in my degree. Organic chem definitely is one of at the top. I think Orgo is hard everywhere, but don't get too scared of it. It's definitely possible to do well if you're constantly studying for it. Orgo is not something that you want to wait till the last few days before the exam. You want to constantly practice for Orgo. Okay.
If anyone needs an organic chem tutor, I have a good source you can ask. But definitely like get peer support, like if you can. And especially I think resources like DAT tutor are really amazing, because especially when it comes to you studying for a DAT, I don't think you want to get like 2 different tutors, one for bio, one for chem, and then you want to do extra like reading comprehension training with like an English teacher, like if you do want that extra support. And it's always better just to get that help from students that are in dental school now and can provide that support since they've already been in your position and taken the exam. I think it could really alleviate a lot of stress. And yeah, so I feel like the giveaway is a great opportunity for some students to get that help. Actually, whenever you can, are you able to please put the link in the
Yes,
chat?
done.
Okay, so if you would like to enter the giveaway and get the chance to win the prizes that I had mentioned earlier, can you bring the slide up again, Ashia, so we can just say what we're giving people one more time?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. And if you have any more questions, you can still drop them while people fill in the form. So yeah, 5 students are going to receive free personalized DAT planning, 1 hour of free tutoring, and free personal statement review. And you can get so many amazing, great things if you have a subscription with DAT Tutor. And if you have any questions about how the model of tutoring works with them, you can ask it right now as well. But yeah, in the meantime, we're gonna wait until I would say 8:56. Like I'll give like 2 minutes.
I'm gonna go to the slide that has the
Yeah, so I sent a link in the chat. I'll send it again. For DAT Tutor's website. Definitely go check them out. Save it as a reference for when you want to take your DAT. And I really want to thank Arshia so much for providing so much great information. We got a lot of positive feedback, and I'm so glad that this webinar has helped a lot of you. And thank you so much for just being so helpful with answering everybody's questions and being so comprehensive. I really appreciate you spending your time. And yeah, thank you. Arshia, what's the best way to contact you if anybody ever had questions?
I would say the best way is our Instagram. So you could follow us on Instagram, and it's just DAT Tutor. And if you have any questions, you can message us. You can also email us at info@dattutor.ca. So I'm gonna put that in too. But yeah, by all means, any questions you have, we're more than happy to answer.
Okay, good stuff. If anybody needs more time after 8:56 to answer the giveaway form, let me know. If not, stick around for announcing the winners. If you can't stick around, I really appreciate you joining us, and I wanted to wish everybody a great night. So thank you so much.
So I'm gonna stop sharing